Hello, welcome to Ray-ality TV. I'm Raymond Bakari. Today I'm joined by Andrew Poyant, who is running for Providence City Council in Ward 14. The current city councilman, David Salvatore, is term limited, opening up the seat for 2022. And the ward itself contains the neighborhoods of Elmhurst and Wanscott. Andrew, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me on.
It's great to have you on. Why do you want to be Ward 14's next city councilor?
I'm an environmental scientist and a community organizer and a father of three. And um, in my work as an environmental scientist, I've worked on a lot of municipal projects and have really seen the difference between, municipalities with well-maintained infrastructure compared to neglected infrastructure. And as I've walked my ward, I've seen the differences between Elmhurst and Wanscott. And I really want to make sure that every neighborhood throughout the whole city has well-maintained public infrastructure and that it's designed to have climate change in mind. Additionally, I've been really frustrated with the way that the city has had a lack of urgency around issues relating to families, and especially like the increased cost of housing and our education system. And so I really want to bring that urgency to City Hall. As a community activist and organizer, I've been involved with the community design team where I've advocated to have a really strong turnaround plan for Providence Public Schools and education equity in mind with that. Additionally, I've been a member of the People's Port Authority since 2016, where we continue to fight to shut down polluting industries in the Port of Providence. And I've been involved with Direct Action for Rights and Equality as well as Childhood-Led Action Project on housing issues. And it's just been like, one continual thing that I see whenever I'm at City Hall is no matter how many people we get to show up, it seems more often than not our city government sides with the interests of those with money over the interests of the residents of Providence. And so, I have pledged I am not taking, and I will continue to not take money from corporate lobbyists, real estate developers, the fossil fuel industry, or corporate PACs. And I really want to make sure, that I'm representing everyone and not just those with money.
And this primary is shaping up to be one of the most competitive out of all 15 wards. There's quite a few where there's more than two candidates, and this is one of them. You have two opponents in the primary, Patrick Griffin and Shelley Peterson. What differentiates you from your opponents?
I'm not taking any money from real estate developers. I really want to put an end to tax stabilization agreements for uh, luxury housing and large corporations. And that is something that definitely distinguishes me from my opponents, who both are taking money from people who are receiving multi-million-dollar tax breaks from the city. And so, I want to put an end to that. And I think that the only way that we can have the city services that we need in Providence and a great public education system is by having a fairer tax system and stop giving out handouts to the extremely wealthy, in addition to taxing our large nonprofits and private colleges.
Looking at some of the big issues facing the city, starting off with public safety, a big topic right now is the 25 license plate reading cameras being put up throughout Providence. Privacy concerns are being raised, but the police are touting it as a way to help fight crime. What are your thoughts on the cameras?
Um, I am skeptical of anything, any major changes right now that are being passed with only a couple months left of a sitting mayor. And we're like, in a few months, we're going to have a new mayor, and we're going to have a new city council president. And I think that this should be addressed after the election and once we're in office. And I I would like to see more of the data. I'm skeptical to think that the amount of money that would go into it is actually worth the cost compared to some of the other things like investing in youth programs and employing people from the city with good paying jobs.
And the cameras are just one of many subtopics within the conversation of public safety in Providence. The main one, one that I believe multiple candidates have given their takes on, not only on this show but just in interviews in general, is funding for the police. Where will it go? Should we defund the police? Abolish the police? Fund it more? Where do you stand on that topic?
Yeah, so I think, numbers and data are important. And every year that Elorza has been in office, and most likely every mayor before that, but at least while Elorza has been in office, every year the police budget has increased. And so like we really need to ask ourselves, why hasn't crime gone down each time that the police budget has increased, right? And so I don't think that increasing the police budget is the solution. I think that, there definitely are situations where someone with a gun needs to be the one to respond, but definitely not all situations. So I think we need to look at what the best way to address the root causes of crime are in our city, and make sure that we address housing as a human right and build a lot of affordable housing, have rent stabilization to get rent increases under control, improve our public education system, fund after school programs and summer youth programs, and mental health services, as well as prioritizing training and hiring for people living in Providence. Whenever we're spending public money, make sure that we're hiring people in Providence for these good living wage jobs to be able to lift people out of poverty and lower the crime rate at the same time.
Sometimes those ideas, like having youth job programs to help address the root causes of crime, or even have social workers respond to instances where a police officer might not be needed for, sometimes it leads to the calls to reallocate money from the police budget. Would you be on board with that idea?
Yes.
And you're also one of the 30 political cooperative candidates running this year. One policy they have on their website under their Equal Justice for All platform is ending cash bail. Is that something you support?
Yes.
Another big topic progressives are also laser focused on addressing is LEABOR. For those watching, that's the Law Enforcement Officers Bill of Rights. This one is decided at the state level, but a lot of city council candidates have been giving their take on it. Should LEABOR be repealed, reformed, or stay the same?
Repealed, and I'm very glad that I have overlapping district with Damian Lima and Lenny Sio. I've been able to have a conversation with the incumbent of Damian Lima, who is opposed to repealing and would rather reform LEABOR, and Damian also supports a full repeal. We are only one of a handful of states that has the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights. I don't think that police accountability and having safe neighborhoods are an either or. I believe that we do need to hold our police to a high account, and they do need to, be professional when they're working. And so I'm glad that I'm able to go out and knock doors and talk about both myself and Damian and why, we both need to get in there. And so I definitely do support repealing the Law Enforcement Officer Bill of Rights.
Moving on to education, each candidate is going to have a vision of what educational reforms are needed or where funding should go to make meaningful changes. Where would your energy be the most dedicated to in regard to education?
Yeah, so I think right now we're, in a difficult position where the state still currently holds power. And I think in my role, if elected, I would really want to try to bring power back to the people of Providence and those most directly affected, parents and students and everyone else involved in the school system, teachers. And so one of the first things that I would want to do is re-implement the Providence City Council Committee on Education and advocate to have quarterly meetings with all stakeholders. So I have, parents, students, staff, the school board, Rhode Island Department of Education, and our mayor's office, as well as all other interested parties, attend quarterly meetings, and that way we can all be on the same board, on the same path, and like working towards improving our public schools. Some other policies that I really want to invest in is increasing staff of color and multilingual staff, especially like with training opportunities for Providence residents. So that way we're able to hire Providence residents. I would like to work on, I'd advocate to have a program with Rhode Island College for Providence residents to become teachers. And in addition to that, I really want to expand dual language programs. There's been a lot of studies nationwide, as well as here in Providence Public Schools, showing how great dual language programs are, both for multilingual learners and for students that English is their first language. In a dual language program, typically it's set up that either one week it's in one language and the other week it's in the other, or half the day it's in one language and half the day it's in the other. So I'm definitely a big advocate of that. I've testified at the State House to expand dual language, and I'd like to continue to advocate that at the city level. Additionally, I want to make sure that we hire more behavioral specialists and special education teachers. And one thing that I've heard at the doors is that and one thing I've heard from a lot of people is that like a lot of schools in PPSD are no longer having art and music, and we've cut back significantly on art and music teachers. And I think it's really important for students to have classes that they really enjoy and like look forward to going to school for. So I want to make sure that everyone has those types of classes that they're able to go and get excited to go to school and look forward to.
This next question, it has some candidates seeking office in Providence a bit divided on, and that's about school resource officers in our public schools. How do you feel about SROs in schools?
Yeah, so again, I'm very data driven, and there's been a lot of data out there that has shown the harms of school resource officers in schools, and that they, as a parent, I wish that there was an easy solution to put an end to school shootings. However, there hasn't been any significant difference in having a school resource officer in a school and reducing the likelihood that a school shooting happens. So I think if we look at the harms that having law enforcement in school can cause on students, I think I would like to not have school resource officers and have counselors, and make sure that there's enough behavioral specialists in each school.
There are plans this year that are on the November ballot for an elected school committee. It's a hybrid elected school committee, half elected and half mayor appointed. For those mayor appointed ones, though, the mayor wouldn't be able to pick more than 2 people from the same region, because that's how they're dividing the districts for the elected members. What are your thoughts on the plans for the elected school committee?
I'll say what I wanted, and I'll say how I will vote, right? So I testified during the charter review in favor of a fully elected school board. As the parent running for office, it's hard. It's hard to run for office. And I think, I want to see more parents on the school board, more parents who, there should be a lot of parents on the school board. And I would like to see 15 school board members, have the districts be the same as the city council wards. I think that having districts the size of 3 city council wards is going to make it really difficult for parents to run. It's a lot of ground to cover. And, if I think it's going to make it a hurdle for a lot of parents who would otherwise want to be on the school board. So that said, I will be voting yes. I think that having some elected school board members who are accountable to the voters is better than none. It's not what I envision and not what I want. I will advocate I will continue to advocate in City Hall to have a fully elected school board and have it be smaller districts than only 5 districts, ideally 15, matching the 15 city council wards.
One question I want to ask, because this is a policy that the co-op has on their website, is a policy proposal that teachers should earn at least $60,000 a year. I'm just curious, because with the public schools, the teachers' salaries are funded by taxpayer dollars. What areas would you try to get money from to increase your salary, or that should be to increase it?
So I believe that the way that that would work, we would be receiving more state money, and I definitely agree that teachers do deserve to be paid a lot more. That it's one of the most important jobs in our society, and it really doesn't make sense that they're paid what they are. So I would say our stance is that currently those making the top 1% in Rhode Island, those making over $400,000 a year, are paying less in taxes than the middle class. And we want to eliminate that tax break at the state level to be able to raise revenue and be able to pay teachers and do the other things that we need to do at the state level. In addition to that, I want a fairer tax system at the city level, which means putting an end to tax stabilization agreements for luxury developers and large corporations, and trying to tax our nonprofits and private colleges more than they currently are being taxed.
Creating more affordable housing is important for many right now, as well as yourself. That's one of the big issues you talked about earlier. Just building more housing is one component of the solution that a fair number of candidates believe. For example, mayoral candidate Gonzalo Cuervo has talked about possibly building housing where Triggs Golf Course is. There's a lot of land over there. Just curious, are there any areas like that you see as potential to build housing on in your ward?
There are several abandoned houses in my ward, and I really, both from a safety aspect, I've talked to several people who live next to abandoned houses. Some of them have been abandoned for almost a decade now, and it poses a real safety risk. And it's also, on the other side of it, like, we have people who are currently unhoused. So I think, I would love to see the abandoned housing within our ward converted to low income public housing. And if it makes more sense from a cost standpoint to demolish it and start from new, or whether or not we're able to rehabilitate it, I think that would be a case-by-case basis. But I would like to start with all the abandoned housing within my ward.
And you mentioned rent control earlier on in the interview. That's another popular policy mentioned as part of the solution. I know, saying his name again, Gonzalo Cuervo, he, in his housing plan, also proposed the 4% cap for rent raising. Is that a number that's acceptable to you?
Yes. Yeah, I do support that as well.
Okay. These next few are shorter form questions I'm asking every council candidate on the show. Is there a certain committee you would like to be on if elected?
There are several. So I think hopefully we get the majority and have a majority progressive city council. But I think my skill set, I would be really good on the DPW committee with the infrastructure experience that I have. I also think I could get a lot done on the ordinance committee. And once we do have the education committee again, that would be one that would be interesting to me as well.
Which of the mayoral candidates do you plan to support next month?
I haven't made up my mind yet. I'm really focused on winning my race.
And this one would, if you end up winning and getting elected on that November ballot, would be one of your first decisions as a council person. Who would you support for the next council president?
The most progressive city council member that is willing to run to try to be city council president. I think it will really depend on how many of us get elected as to who gets in there. But yeah, I think that there are a few different options out there, and it'll depend on who ends up winning.
My final question, this is a non-political topic I like to ask everyone at the end to keep the tradition and take a step away from the political issues. In your opinion, what do you think Rhode Island is best known for?
Rhode Island as a whole or Providence?
You could do either, or usually I go statewide, but either's fine.
I think Providence is known for, being creative and our various cultural events that we have in the city, which I really enjoy. And then I think Rhode Island has a lot of natural beauty. We're able to go, we have hiking trails as well as beaches, and there's a lot about Rhode Island to love.
Very true, especially Providence, Water Fire, PVD Fest, and there's always room to grow with that. I know the art scene is just only growing bigger and bigger in the city, so it's definitely something to look forward to. Andrew, I want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure of mine to have you on.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
Thank you. And thank you for watching this episode of Ray-ality TV. If you want to see future episodes as soon as they're posted on this channel, please click the subscribe button down below and the post notification bell icon to the right of it. I'm Raymond Bakari, and I'll see you on the next episode.